Sony has just filed a pretty significant patent that raises a lot of questions. I'll take a look at that. Also, Sony Interactive Entertainment is opening a studio in Malaysia in 2020. It's actually a support studio, but that's really cool that they're expanding, so I want to give that some attention. And I also want to highlight the fact that going into the PlayStation 5, Sony wants to move PlayStation 4 players to PlayStation 5 faster than in previous generations. This came from the Jim Ryan interview that I covered a little bit of, but I also wanted to add on to that. More on that at the end of this video. And before we get into everything, I just want to remind you guys to make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit the bell notification icon so you are always notified of uploads, and that definitely helps out the channel too, so we always appreciate that. First up, Sony has filed a patent for a curious new cartridge. As detailed by Push Square, Sony has filed a patent for a curious new cartridge in Brazil, raising speculation about the nature of the product and its design. The last cartridge-based console that the company released was the ill-fated PlayStation Vita. Now, I should add that I absolutely adored the PlayStation Vita. I thought it had some fantastic games. Unfortunately, there were some poor decisions made. Pricing was obviously an issue, not necessarily when it was announced. However, when it came out that the PlayStation Vita was going to be $250 and then you'd have to buy a proprietary memory card, and then Nintendo totally undercut them by slashing the price of the 3DS. Yeah, the PS Vita was kind of doomed at that point, but I really dug the platform and I thought it had some great games, but nonetheless, the PlayStation 5 has already been confirmed to include a 4K Blu-ray drive, and it's unlikely to be related to that. Could this be a new handheld? I highly doubt that. I just don't know. You guys might not realize this, but yes, while the PlayStation Portable did get whooped by the DS, the PlayStation Portable did do very well in its own right. I think it sold like 80 million units or something like that. It did really well, and a lot of people bought it, especially when they started bundling like Star Wars with it and all that stuff. It did really well. I remember the Star Wars bundle with Darth Vader on it. That was just flying off shelves during the holiday season of 07, I think it was. It did really well. The PlayStation Vita, unfortunately, that's the one that a lot of people did not check out for whatever reason, whether it be the price point, whether it be the memory cards, the game offerings, I don't know. I thought the game offerings were quite good. There were a lot of games, and of course, from a technical standpoint, it was really good. And visually, the games look something close to a PlayStation 3 game, a little bit short of that. Uncharted Golden Abyss was probably the first or second most visually appealing game, either Uncharted Golden Abyss or Killzone Mercenary, and that game visually was stunning, but great visuals are only going to get you so far, and you ultimately saw that with the PlayStation Vita, and now obviously it's a thing of the past, although I actually do think they release games on it digitally or something. Majority of people are not buying a PlayStation Vita in 2019 going into 2020, that's all I'm saying. As far as this new patent, this new cartridge patent has been submitted by Yujin Morisawa, and that was a man that also made a patent for a toy that was released in Japan, so it might be something related to that. Whatever the case may be, it is something interesting to note of. It does specifically note game cartridge. I just don't think at this point Sony is really considering a handheld platform, especially with the release of the PlayStation 5 imminent, although this is around the time you would start talking about it if you are trying to parlay that into a release in 2021, 2022, anything like that. I would love to see a new PlayStation Portable platform. I love the PSP. I thought that had some fantastic games. I love the PlayStation Vita. I thought that had some fantastic games, and I think there's a lot of potential for a new portable platform, and we see it can be a success. However, I just think these days the money is in console gaming, and if you do want to go the mobile route and portable route, you've got mobile games on phones, and whatever the case may be, that's probably the more logical route to go. We'll keep you posted on that, and once we hear more, we'll let you guys know. Moving on from that, Sony Interactive Entertainment will open a new development office in Malaysia in 2020, which will provide art and animation as a part of Worldwide Studios. The news was announced by Malaysia Minister of Communications and Multimedia YB Tuan Agobin Singh Diao. I'm sorry if I butchered his name, but it was noted with this establishment, Malaysia will be working closely with Sony Interactive Entertainment Worldwide Studios to create more opportunities for the local and regional games industry. Together, we will work to uplift creative talent in Malaysia and even establish a partnership with our local education partners. This is to ensure that accelerated growth of the industry in our country will be supported. Famed Sony Interactive Entertainment President and CEO Jim Ryan added, quote, "Impressive talent, a vibrant game ecosystem, and support from the government are key reasons why we have decided to take our partnership with Malaysia to the next level." That also comes from games industry. The Malaysia partnership, I think, is really cool just to see Sony expand more with all of their offerings in China and what they're trying to get done in China, and now opening up a studio in Malaysia. It's just cool to see Sony become more and more of a global brand. As far as China goes, that is still a work in progress, and I want to see some really great games come out of China. I think that could be a real big fixture for just gaming in general in the future, not just Sony. But I do think that there's a lot of potential there, and there's a lot of talented people to work on compelling video games. We'll see how that develops in the future. And as far as Malaysia goes, obviously this is in a smaller scale because it's just a new development office providing art and animation. However, this can develop into something bigger and better in the future, and just to see more and more people get opportunities to work for companies like Sony and whatever, that is incredibly exciting, because I think everybody should have the chance and the opportunity to work in major companies like a Sony. And if Microsoft wants to break into certain areas of Nintendo, whatever, that's just going to offer more opportunities to people in general, and I think that's pretty great. Lastly, I do want to highlight another element of the aforementioned Jim Ryan's interview with Games Industry, and that's the fact that Sony wants to move PlayStation 4 players to PlayStation 5 faster than in previous generations. And this is such a big talking point when you talk about releasing a next generation platform. How quickly can you get people to jump on over from one platform to the next? Because a big notion when I talk to some people, just anecdotally, but I speak to a lot of casual gamers, one notion over and over again that I'll hear is, oh, I'm excited for the PlayStation 5, but I don't think I'll be picking it up right away. There's really no reason for me to pick it up right away. I'm good with my PlayStation 4. I'll wait a year, I'll wait a year and a half, whatever the case may be. At the very least, a lot of people wait at least 6-7 months to see how the initial reception is. I think with the PlayStation 5, Sony is really going to try to mitigate that time between generational leaps for a lot of people. And ultimately, how do you get people to jump on over? Well, it's a phrase that I just said a little while ago, reason. You have to give people a reason to jump on over, and really the easiest reason to facilitate is compelling video game offerings. Whether it be a Horizon 2 at launch, whether it be a Demon's Souls remake, you really need to come out guns blazing at launch. I feel like a lot of console launches really fail at this. The PlayStation 4, I got the PlayStation 4 at launch, but let's be real, that launch was nothing to write home about. If you take away the third-party games, where a lot of them were available on the PlayStation 3, Assassin's Creed 4, Battlefield 5, Call of Duty Ghosts, Need for Speed Rivals, all of these games were available on the PS3. And you look at the new offerings, well, you had Knack, that wasn't very good. You had Killzone Shadowfall, which I liked Killzone Shadowfall, and it was a great technical showpiece. However, it was easily the weakest Killzone game since Killzone 1. And then you had Resogun, which was a great game. However, that's not going to translate with the mainstream audience. You need to, right out of the gate, deliver those games that people are just going to be completely wowed by, and they want to pick up the console day one so they can play those games. The PlayStation 3 really didn't have anything that majorly compelling either. You had Resistance Fall of Man, and that was literally it. I've been saying over and over again, with the PlayStation 5, you have to offer something compelling right out of the gate, and I would say get 2 major exclusives, whether that be a Demon's Souls remake or a Horizon 2. Those are the 2 that I would really go for and try to get that ready for launch. And then you surround that with third-party titles and other interesting smaller games, but you need at least 2 marquee titles. I think 2 would be the ideal number. Usually in past, we would see 1 marquee title and then everything else would kind of fall to the wayside. In the case of the PS4, that 1 marquee title in Killzone Shadowfall wasn't even that great, so that was unfortunate. I get the idea that it takes time for developers to really figure out the console and accentuate its power, and a lot of the times these developers are rushed to get out games for launch. I understand that, but if you want the console to be as successful as possible and get as many people to jump on over as possible, you need to bring forth the compelling brands, the compelling titles, the excellent games, and that's how people are gonna jump over. And again, a game like Horizon, that's an established brand. PlayStation gamers know that, and if they see Horizon 2, that's a game to get them to jump over. And then obviously Souls is huge, and Souls would get a lot of people to jump on over. That's just my 2 cents, but I also want to note what Jim Ryan himself said, saying, quote, "These are gamers who are networked and sticky and engaged and passionate about PlayStation to an extent that we have not seen in previous generations. As we move towards the next generation in 2020, one of our tasks, probably our main task, is to take that community and transition it from PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 5 and at a scale and pace that we've never delivered on before." One thing that makes me particularly optimistic that what we've been hearing from developers and publishers is the ease in which they are able to get code running on PS5 is way beyond any experience they've had on any other PlayStation platform, and that's that's fantastic because that means they can make their games as good as possible right out of the gate. And again, it comes down to the games. I think if this generation has taught us anything, is that ultimately a console is going to be defined by its games. Initially, there is going to be that sense of marketing and used games or used games playable, whatever the case may be, but in the long haul, after all of that has been established, how big a console is going to be, it's going to come down to the games, it's going to come down to the quality offerings, and in the case of PS5, I think you really want to establish that right out of the gate. And that's going to conclude this video. Again, Sony has filed a very interesting patent for a new cartridge. We'll see how that is. They've also opened a support studio in Malaysia, and lastly, they want to move PS4 players to PS5 faster than any previous generation. That's going to conclude this video. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.